The moment you place your trust in Allah, that wall turns transparent. You begin to see opportunities where once there were obstacles. Every challenge becomes a signpost guiding you back to the path of faith. Allah doesn't trap you in difficulty. He teaches you how to walk through it with grace. Tests are not signs of divine anger. They are invitations to deeper connection. They remind the heart that true reliance is not on the world, but on the one who created it. When life closes in from all sides, the believer finds a doorway in prayer. That door leads to peace that cannot be shaken by the noise of this world. Sometimes the bridge is steep, narrow, and trembling under your feet, but that's because it's leading you higher. Allah never designed the road to ease, to be flat. He designed it to build your faith step by step. Every test that shakes you is shaping you. Every moment of hardship is polishing a diamond within your soul. The purpose of every test is not to see if you will fall, but to show you that Allah will catch you every single time. When your heart is heavy, your tears are seen. When your patience runs thin, your effort is counted. You are not walking alone across that bridge. Divine mercy walks with you every step of the way. What looks like loss is often a lesson. The believer understands that what disappears from their hands was never meant to stay, and what remains is exactly what the soul needs to grow. The test bridges your desires with divine wisdom, replacing impatience with trust and doubt with clarity. Even the most difficult test has beauty hidden within it. It teaches you humility when you thought you had control, faith when everything seems uncertain, and gratitude when relief finally arrives. Each test, no matter how painful, is a part of your soul's journey toward light. The believer walks across it not with despair, but with remembrance. The bridge of tests is not built with ease, it's built with tears, effort, and trust. Every act of patience, every silent prayer, every moment of surrender becomes a plank in that bridge. And when you look back, you'll realize that it was never weakness that carried you across, it was grace. Tests often come when you least expect them, but they never come without purpose. Allah knows what will awaken your heart. He knows what will bring you closer to Him, even if it hurts. What you call a problem might be the very tool Allah is using to elevate your soul beyond what comfort ever could. Sometimes the bridge doesn't lead to what you wanted, it leads to what you were meant for. What you thought was failure turns into freedom. What you saw as rejection becomes redirection. The believer's journey isn't about chasing outcomes. It's about trusting that every test is carrying them exactly where they're supposed to be. The bridge of tests also teaches perspective. You start to see that ease and hardship are both parts of mercy. One teaches gratitude, the other teaches patience, and both build the same destination, peace. When you cross the bridge with faith, even pain feels lighter because you understand its purpose. Allah never leaves a heart untested, because untested hearts remain unawakened. The fire of struggle burns away the layers of pride and replaces them with humility. It removes arrogance and plants sincerity. The bridge may be made of hardship, but it leads to softness, the softness of a heart that truly knows its Lord. If you ever feel stuck in your test, remember you are not stuck, you are being guided. Allah's plan doesn't trap you, it transforms you. The bridge may look broken from your side, but from His side it is already complete. Every hardship you face is already connected to a relief that's waiting to meet you at the end. Some bridges can only be crossed with tears, but those tears are not signs of weakness, they're signs of cleansing. They wash away your doubt, your impatience and your pride, leaving behind a heart pure enough to see Allah's wisdom clearly. Through those tears, your faith grows roots that no storm can pull out. Every test leaves behind traces of change. You become more forgiving, more mindful, more compassionate. The believer realizes that their greatest lessons didn't come from comfort but from struggle. The bridge doesn't just lead to relief, it leads to refinement. You cross it once, but its impact lasts forever. Sometimes Allah doesn't remove the difficulty because He wants you to keep walking with Him a little longer. The test becomes your company, your reminder, your mirror. It reflects what still needs healing and helps you find peace even before the test ends. That is the quiet victory of the patient heart. The bridge of trials is not just personal, it connects humanity. When you've walked across pain with faith, you begin to guide others through theirs. You share your lessons, your hope, your faith. Your endurance becomes their map. And in that way, your test becomes a blessing beyond yourself. Every test is a conversation written in silence between you and Allah. It's His way of saying, come closer to me. If you keep walking, trusting and praying, you'll find that what felt like an ending was always a bridge leading you to peace. The believer never walks off that bridge empty-handed. They leave with wisdom, strength, and a heart closer to its Creator. You'll step off that bridge and realize it was never meant to break you. It was meant to carry you to a place you could never have reached. Without it, a place of deeper faith, softer heart, and stronger soul. Every test you faced was not a wall against your dreams. It was a bridge to the destiny Allah always intended for you. Faith is not built in comfort, it is born in the storms that shake the heart. The days that seem to break you are the same days that awaken your connection with Allah. When everything feels uncertain, when life seems to collapse from every side, that's when belief becomes more than words. It becomes your lifeline. Every tear, every sigh, every silent prayer is shaping your faith in ways ease never could. On the hardest days, the believer learns the true meaning of surrender. You stop trying to control what's beyond you and start trusting the one who always knew. Allah's wisdom is not seen in the sunshine, it's discovered in the shadows. It's in those dark moments that your heart whispers, asterisk, I still believe, asterisk, and that whisper alone lights the path ahead. The days that test you most are not meant to destroy your peace, but to prove its source. Faith built on comfort fades easily. Faith built in pain stands forever. When you hold on to hope while everything tells you to give up, you're proving that your trust is not in the outcome, but in the one who writes it. That is what deep faith looks like: quiet, steady, unshaken. Hardship doesn't always change your situation immediately, but it always changes you. It humbles your heart, softens your spirit, and reminds you that strength doesn't come from the world, it comes from Allah. The believer who walks through fire and still remembers mercy has reached a level of faith no comfort can teach. The hardest days show you what you truly believe about Allah. It's easy to say, I trust Him, when life is smooth. But when the path is filled with uncertainty, that's when trust becomes real. Every trial is a mirror. It reflects whether you worship blessings or the one who gives them. The believer who holds on in pain finds faith that can't be shaken by ease. When life feels unbearable, remember that Allah sees you in the struggle. He hears every prayer you think is lost. Nothing goes unnoticed and nothing is in vain. The believer learns that even silence has purpose. It's the space where Allah teaches you patience. Through that silence, your heart learns to listen not to the world, but to Him. The deepest faith is often born in the darkest valleys. When you can't see the way forward but still move with trust, that's when belief transforms into conviction. The hardest days don't mean Allah is far, they mean He's closer than ever. He's not testing you to measure your pain. He's showing you the strength you didn't know you carried. Every hardship carries a hidden conversation between you and your Creator. It's a call to return, to reconnect, to rediscover the purpose of your existence. The believer doesn't ask, why me? But whispers, guide me. That surrender doesn't weaken you, it liberates you. It frees you from fear, because faith replaces it with certainty. The heart that endures with faith begins to see beauty in difficulty. You start noticing how every test pushes you to pray more, reflect more, and love more purely. Hardship teaches you to appreciate peace when it comes, and to trust Allah's plan even when you don't understand it. That awareness becomes a light inside you, the kind that never fades. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, faced unimaginable hardship, loss, rejection, pain, yet his faith only grew stronger. His life was a reminder that the closer you are to Allah, the more refined your tests become. Your faith deepens not despite the difficulty, but because of it. You realize that every hardship is a divine investment in your spiritual growth. The hardest days strip away the illusions of control. You learn that no amount of planning, effort or worry can change what Allah has written. But that realization doesn't bring despair, it brings peace. You start to understand that faith doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you will be okay even when it isn't. Pain introduces you to parts of yourself you never knew existed. Resilience, gratitude and sincerity. You stop chasing perfection and start seeking connection. Allah doesn't want you flawless. He wants you faithful. The brokenness you feel today is simply the heart learning how to bend without breaking. Every deep believer has walked through the valley of hardship. They've questioned, cried and fallen, but they never stopped trusting. That's the difference between losing hope and growing in faith. Allah doesn't promise a life without pain, but He promises a heart that can handle it with peace. Faith grows in the silence between prayers and answers. The waiting period, the uncertainty, the longing, that's where trust is built. Allah delays not to hurt you but to prepare you. What feels like stagnation is spiritual construction. When the blessing finally arrives, you'll see how the delay was mercy disguised as time. The hardest days are sacred. They are where your soul learns to walk in the dark. Every step you take in faith, even trembling, is noticed by Allah. The believer who trusts while suffering carries a light that no storm can extinguish. That light becomes their strength long after the pain is gone. Faith deepens when you realize that Allah's mercy exists even in your heartbreak. The same test that brought you to tears is the one that will lift you in wisdom. You start seeing your struggles not as barriers, but as stepping stones. Each hardship leaves behind a piece of understanding that builds your spiritual foundation. Sometimes faith means holding on to a single verse, a single prayer, or even a single tear. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. Allah values your effort more than your outcome. Every time you choose belief over despair, you are planting a seed of peace that will bloom when the time is right. The believer who has faced pain with trust becomes a living reminder of Allah's mercy. Their calmness in chaos, their hope in darkness becomes guidance for others. Through them, Allah teaches that deep faith isn't inherited, it's earned through perseverance and patience. The hardest days are not the end of your faith. They are the soil where it grows. When life challenges your heart, it's because Allah sees potential in you that you haven't yet discovered. Every hardship becomes a step closer to Him, a reminder that no one understands your pain better than the one who gave you life. And when ease finally returns, your faith will not be the same. It will be deeper, wiser, and unshakable. You'll understand that the hardest days were never against you, they were for you. They carved strength into your heart and taught you that with Allah, even the heaviest storm becomes a bridge to peace. A broken heart may feel like the end, but in reality, it's the beginning of a deeper connection with Allah. When pain enters the heart, it clears away pride, ego, and illusion, leaving space for sincerity to grow. The heart that has been softened by sorrow understands compassion, humility, and the true meaning of trust. Even in its shattered state, it beats with faith, and that beat is what keeps the believer alive. When your heart breaks, Allah doesn't look at how strong you appear. He looks at how sincerely you call upon Him. Sometimes He allows your heart to break so that it can finally bow. Pain humbles you in ways ease never could. The tears that fall in silence are not a sign of weakness. They are the evidence of a heart still alive in remembrance. Even when your heart feels heavy with grief, it continues to whisper times, subhanallah. Asterisk, that's the miracle of faith. It survives even in sorrow. You might think you're too broken to return to Allah, but He never left you. He's closer to your wounds than you are to your own breath. Every beat of that wounded heart is heard, counted and healed in ways you cannot yet see. A broken heart is not proof of Allah's absence, it's proof of His mercy. He breaks what has become too attached to this world so you can remember the one who truly matters. When the world stops making sense, that's when you start hearing the call of your Creator more clearly. The heart that once relied on people learns to rest in prayer. Every heartbreak is a purification. It washes away what was never meant to stay and makes room for peace that no one can take away. The believer who faces pain with patience doesn't lose, they transform. Their heart becomes softer, wiser, and more beautiful. Brokenness becomes the gateway through which divine love enters. Sometimes Allah allows your heart to ache because it's the only way to remove what's hurting your soul. You think you've lost something important, but in truth you've been protected. The heart that bleeds in remembrance will one day bloom with peace. Every ache has an expiry date, but the lessons it leaves behind will guide you forever. Even in the depths of sorrow, your heart continues to beat because Allah sustains it. Every pulse is a reminder that you're still chosen, still seen, still loved. When you raise your hands in dua with trembling faith, the heavens listen. Broken hearts produce the most sincere prayers, the kind that pierce through despair and reach the throne of mercy. A heart that has been broken in the path of Allah will never return empty. He rebuilds it stronger, softer, and more aware of His presence. The believer learns that strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the decision to keep trusting through it. Pain teaches what peace cannot. That love for Allah is the only love that never disappoints. There are seasons when you feel everything slipping away, dreams, people, security, and yet your heart keeps whispering, Allah is enough. That whisper is faith breathing through the cracks of pain. It's proof that even when everything else fades, your connection with Him remains unbroken. Every broken heart has a story, and in every story Allah writes a lesson. Some hearts break to learn patience, others to learn surrender. The pain may feel unbearable now, but it's not eternal. The same hand that allowed the wound also holds the cure. The believer's task is not to understand everything, but to trust the one who does. When your heart feels shattered beyond repair, remember that the one who created it knows how to heal it. Allah doesn't replace hearts, He restores them. He turns pain into prayer, confusion into clarity, and wounds into wisdom. Every sigh that escapes your chest is already being rewritten as reward. Faith grows stronger in the cracks of a broken heart. The believer who survives heartbreak doesn't come out the same. They come out purer. They no longer seek comfort in people, but in prayer. They no longer fear loss because they've met the one who can never be lost. Even in heartbreak, gratitude finds its way in. You start thanking Allah not only for what He gave, but for what He took, because now you understand that not everything you love is good for your soul. Allah removes attachments that weigh you down so that your heart can rise toward Him unhindered. The most beautiful hearts are those that have been broken and still choose to love, to forgive, and to hope. Their light doesn't come from perfection, it comes from pain refined by patience. Allah doesn't waste the tears of a believer. He turns them into pearls of wisdom that adorn the soul. A broken heart softens your dua. It strips away pride and brings you to your knees in honesty. The believer who prays from the ruins of pain prays differently, not for outcomes, but for closeness. And that closeness becomes the healing they were searching for all along. Sometimes the healing doesn't come in the way you expect. It comes through acceptance, through understanding, through a quiet peace that settles without explanation. The believer learns that the heart doesn't need to be perfect to feel whole. It just needs to be aligned with Allah's will. Even when life wounds you deeply, it cannot take away the ability to remember Allah. That remembrance is proof that you're still alive in faith. Every breath you take while believing is an act of worship. The broken heart beats with sincerity that comfort could never produce. When you face heartbreak with faith, You're not losing, you're rising. Each tear that falls for the sake of Allah plants a seed of peace that will bloom when the time is right. Broken hearts that trust Him never remain broken forever. They are rebuilt with light. The believer who thanks Allah even while hurting has understood the secret of peace. Gratitude in pain transforms the wound into wisdom. You realize that the same heartbreak that brought you to tears also brought you closer to your Lord. That nearness is the greatest healing of all. Your heart will beat not with pain but with peace. You look at the scars and see not loss but lessons. The heart that once shattered will shine brighter than before because it learned that even in brokenness it was never abandoned. Even a broken heart beats for Allah, and that beat is the most beautiful sound the soul can ever make. Strength doesn't bloom in moments of comfort. It takes root in the quiet corners of hardship. When everything seems dark and uncertain, that's when your faith begins to grow in ways you can't yet see. The shadows that surround you are not meant to scare you, they're meant to shape you. Allah allows those seasons of struggle to teach you that your strength isn't built in ease, it's built in endurance. Every challenge carries a hidden lesson wrapped in pain. The believer who holds on through the storm learns that patience is not passive, it's power. When you stay calm while the world shakes, when you smile through tears knowing Allah's wisdom is still at work, that's when strength quietly blossoms within you. It's not loud or visible, but it transforms everything you are. Sometimes Allah hides your growth in struggle because strength is formed in silence. You may not feel it happening, but with every test, your heart learns to lean on Him more deeply. What once frightened you begins to lose its grip, and what once broke you starts to build you. True resilience is not about being unhurt, it's about finding peace even while hurting. The shadows of life are not empty. They are full of divine lessons. When things go wrong, it's easy to think Allah is distant, but in truth, He's closest in those moments. The believer's pain becomes the soil from which faith sprouts. Through struggle, you realize that the same darkness that blinded you is the very thing that helped your heart see. Allah does not let a tear fall without purpose. Every hardship you face is a training ground for the soul. You may feel fragile, but inside you are being strengthened. Each disappointment teaches reliance. Each delay grows patience, and each loss awakens gratitude. Strength grows quietly, but its roots run deep, anchored in faith and watered by trust. When life places you in the shadows, don't curse the darkness, use it to rest, reflect, and reconnect. The believer understands that light is most beautiful after night. The moments when no one sees your effort, no one hears your prayers, are the moments that Allah records the most. Hidden strength is often the most powerful kind. Struggle teaches you who you truly are. You begin to recognize the parts of yourself that only hardship can reveal. Resilience, endurance, humility, ease never teaches these qualities, only struggle can. The shadows become a classroom where your soul learns lessons that comfort could never offer. Even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, faced deep trials before victory. His patience, his perseverance, his trust in Allah, they were all shaped by hardship. Every great soul has been forged in difficulty. The believer learns that to carry light, one must first walk through darkness with faith. Strength is not built in the absence of struggle, it's born from walking through it with purpose. You might feel like you're breaking, but Allah is shaping you into someone who can handle what's ahead. What feels like an ending is often a preparation for something extraordinary. The believer learns to see pain not as punishment, but as progress. Every trial carries a message. You're growing even when it hurts. When you face challenges with sabr, your heart becomes more compassionate, your faith more stable, and your soul more alive. The pain that once made you cry becomes the strength that lifts you later. Allah never lets suffering go to waste. Sometimes strength looks like standing tall, but often it looks like kneeling in prayer. The believer doesn't need to appear powerful to be powerful. True strength is silent, unseen by people, but fully known by Allah. Every sajda made in exhaustion, every whisper of asterisk, help me, Ya Allah, asterisk becomes a seed of strength that will bloom when you need it most. The shadows of struggle also protect you from arrogance. When life humbles you, you realize how much you depend on Allah. The believer stops saying, I can handle it, and starts saying, Allah is with me. That shift turns pain into peace. Strength isn't found in independence. It's found in complete dependence on Him. The hardest moments often carry the deepest mercy. You think Allah is testing you to see you suffer, but He's testing you to show you how resilient your heart truly is. What once felt unbearable slowly becomes a part of your story, the part that shaped your faith, refined your patience, and made your soul shine brighter. Every struggle leaves something behind, a lesson, a prayer, a softer heart. You may not recognize the strength you've gained until life tests you again and you realize you no longer break the same way you did before. That's when you understand how much the shadows taught you. The believer's strength is quiet but unshakable. It's found in those who keep showing up even when life feels heavy. They walk through storms knowing that the one who sent the rain also controls the sky. Their calmness in chaos is not naivety, it's trust. They've learned that Allah never abandons a heart that turns toward Him. Struggle also teaches gratitude. Once you've known pain, you appreciate peace differently. You begin to see blessings in the smallest things, a moment of calm, a kind word, a deep breath. The believer who has walked through hardship carries a heart that thanks Allah not only for relief but for the struggle that led to it. Every time you rise after falling, you're proving that Allah's mercy is stronger than your weakness. Strength doesn't mean you never fall. It means you always rise again with faith. The believer understands that growth doesn't happen in straight lines. It happens through trials that stretch the soul and polish the heart. The shadows of struggle remind you that light exists because of contrast. Without hardship, you wouldn't recognize ease. Without loss, you wouldn't value what remains. Every challenge reveals the balance in Allah's plan, a plan that always ends with mercy. Strength grows best where patience and faith meet. You may not see your strength yet, but Allah does. Every act of endurance, every silent prayer, every moment you choose hope over despair, it's all being recorded. You're not getting weaker through the struggle, you're being refined. The fire that tests you today will forge you into gold tomorrow. You'll stand in the light of peace and realize that everything the shadows taught you was necessary. You'll thank Allah not just for the victory, but for the struggle that built you, because strength was never given to you in ease. It was grown quietly in the shadows under the watchful care of the Most Merciful. Hope is not a feeling, it is a form of faith. It's the quiet voice in your heart that keeps whispering, asterisk, Allah will make a way even when everything seems impossible. The door of hope never closes for those who trust their Creator, because Allah's mercy doesn't depend on circumstances, it depends on His compassion. Every believer who holds on in the darkness eventually walks into light. When life pushes you to your limits, hope becomes your lifeline. You may feel like everything around you has ended, but Allah's plan never does. The believer learns that despair is a deception, a whisper that hides the truth, that Allah's help is always near. Hope is not about denying pain, it's about believing that beyond pain there is purpose. Every test you face comes with an opening, even if you can't see it yet. Allah never closes a door without preparing another, and sometimes He hides it behind patience. When you choose to trust Him instead of questioning Him, you begin to see doors appear where walls once stood. The key to those doors is faith, not sight. The heart that trusts Allah never runs out of hope, because it knows that even in silence He is listening. When you cry in prayer, He hears. When you sigh in exhaustion, He understands. When you can't even find the words, He still knows what your heart is saying. Hope is believing that even unanswered prayers are answered differently. Allah's mercy doesn't fade when you fall, it expands to catch you. Sometimes He closes a chapter, not to end your story, but to turn you toward a better one. The believer who trusts His wisdom understands that rejection is often redirection. Hope isn't found in controlling life, it's found in surrendering to the one who already does. When you feel like you've lost everything, that's when hope is reborn. Allah removes attachments so you can learn to rely only on Him. The emptiness you feel isn't abandonment, it's space being made for something better. True hope doesn't come from knowing how things will work out. It comes from knowing who will make them work out. Hope grows stronger in uncertainty. When the future is unclear and your strength feels gone, that's when faith begins its real work.